What's going on, everybody? King of Chaos, Logan Black here, although you're probably checking this out on my personal page. And it's another edition, another week of Dude, Have You Heard This? The music show where a bunch of friends sit around and talk all things nerdy music. With me, as always, Scotty Ceriti and Johnny Torres. Go ahead, say hello, guys. Sound off.
What's going on, everybody?
Heyo.
And with us, the first time ever second guest, and I cannot think of a better person to join us for a second time. She'll probably be on a third time because she's just so lovely to have around. Katred, go ahead and sound off.
What's up? I'm so excited. This made my whole entire week. I was looking forward to this, and I'm honored to be your second time, two-time. That's it. It's just two-time guest.
When we have you on for 5 time, you got to wear the Booker T.
Oh,
dress.
I'm doing everything.
Yeah, exactly. And the Spinaroonie. Got to get that going. Well, let's just hop right into things. This was certainly a very alternative music-based week. Not like we don't usually have those. I think it's pretty clear by this point where all of our musical tastes kind of center. But I think we got a lot of different sounds going within those genres. So let's start off first with, as things fall from my desk, it's raining outside, and apparently it is raining things inside of this office. So we're going to start with Scotty Ceriti with his pick. Go right ahead, man.
I picked the first EP ever released by post-punk legends, Mission of Burma, New England band. Very, very... By the time I found this band, my experimental punk tastes were very leaning towards like the Meat Puppets and the Minutemen and Husker Du. And I came across a YouTube video of Jay Mascis from Dinosaur Jr. shopping at Amoeba Records out in California. And he had their first album, their first full-length, Versus, which had just been remastered at that time. And he said it was the record that gave Dinosaur Jr. hope that not all reunions... it was the reunion that gave them hope that not all reunions would be terrible. So that's why Dinosaur Jr. got back together. And I heard that, and I was like, all right, I should check these guys out. And I really like bands with 2 singers. And it's a very distinct style between the 2 singers. The bassist actually sings more of the poppy alternative rock stuff, while the guitarist is the guy who does like, oh, let's just throw a random tape loop in here 30 seconds into the song just so people think like their CD is skipping or something. And I always thought that was a really interesting dynamic between the members of the band.
So I want to hop in right off the bat before I open it up to everybody else. Mission of Burma is one of those bands that if you know punk rock, if you know just alternative music in general, you've at least heard the name. I heard the name. But as we've seen, it's been I guess been the tale that has gone from episode to episode that there are bands that I don't listen to simply because people who are smart listen to them, and I avoided that. And this is one of those bands. So this was my first experience listening to a full album. I listened to songs here and there, but this was the first time I checked out a full album. Johnny, what did you think about this one?
So, I remember my first introduction to Mission of Burma was actually as DLC in Rock Band. And I distinctly remember trying these Mission of Burma songs and like remembering at that time, like, this band right now isn't for me, but, if I come back to this in a couple years, it might be more up my alley or something. Like, I just felt like I wasn't ready for Mission of Burma at that stage in my life. So, and this was the first I've revisited Mission of Burma since. So definitely have more of an appreciation for the sound, having swum through a whole bunch more like punk rock than I did when I was playing Rock Band. Whole thing was really cool. Definitely makes me want to go like look into them more now that I'm sure in the fact that I like the overall sound. Knowing that this is sort of near the beginning of their discography definitely is even more encouraging because now you just work forward from there. Yeah, really, really good. A second chance, I guess you could call it. But yeah, really enjoyable listen.
I would certainly agree. This, like I said, is the first time that I really was able to go beginning to end on a Mission of Burma album. I do, however, remember, and just quick tidbit, they played 2 final shows in Boston when they first had broken up and all that. and the opening bands were all bands from the Boston hardcore scene. So we're talking about like, oh man, SSD, I think, was opening up for him. Where like on American Hardcore, the documentary, if any of you guys, it's a brilliant documentary. But they talk about like, yeah, so there's SSD, and they've got Boston Hardcore and a whole arena of Mission of Burma fans. So you could imagine what that was like. Check it out. Katred, what did you think of this one?
I too. This is the first time I've ever heard their album in full, but at the same time it was super nostalgic for me. I was immediately transported to Trash and Vaudeville down in the East Village, because that's exactly what they would play all the time. As soon as it started playing, I went, yeah, I know this song, I know this album. And I can see Jimmy immediately just walking up,
my heart,
saying like, "Hey babe, what do you want to wear today? I got a couple of pieces." And that's like, as it was playing each one, it's just like, yeah, you're in the stall trying on clothes as you're listening to this, and you're just rocking out. And I loved it, especially right at the bat, off the bat with Academy Fight Song. Like as soon as it started playing, I was like, oh yeah, I know this.
Yeah. I was gonna say that immediately. Like in my notes, I put down opener kills right off the bat. They sucked me in with what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another couple of good ones. Devotion, really great opening. I also feel like it's that song where it's like the point in whatever movie you're watching where all of a sudden things start getting done. Like it starts the series. Execution, dope. It also for me had like a Ramones type of vibe, and I don't know if they were like sort of influenced, but Outlaw had that like just a pinch of like British new wave. And yeah, I really like this. Fame and Fortune, I feel like between Fame and Fortune and This Is Not a Photograph, which I think, Scotty, was one of your picks.
Absolutely it was.
Baller. Yeah.
Such a good song.
Such a good song.
I love the fact that you mentioned British New Wave, because I had put down in my notes, I was like, Buzzcocks, kind of, but then I was also getting more like the Jam from this, which, like the Jam had come out, a couple of years after, if I'm not mistaken. Reach for My Revolver stuck out for me. I know I'm always throwing the songs out there that are like not the ones that anyone else, it's personal taste, but yeah, I was really stoked to listen to this. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings?
I forgot one.
Go for it.
Song, All World Cowboy Romance. I'm listening to it and I'm just going, wow, this is a really long intro. And then and then I realized I was like, no, wait, this is a whole instrumental, and it was so, I loved it. It was actually one of the songs that I went back to listen to it again, because then I was like, okay, now I can sit with this and realize it's a full instrumental piece. It was great. So yeah, forgot to mention that one. Great album. Great pick, Scott.
I'm going to jump in real quick. I know my stories tend to drone on, but I'm going to try and go quick with it. I worked at Rolling Stone for a couple of summers, in between like normal job stuff. And for one summer, pretty much my job was just to wait in the Rolling Stone magazine library and just wait for somebody to need me to go do something. So I would literally just pick a book and read it for however long it would take. And all of the Rolling Stone books that there were from like all these different people, all like the best of alternative, or like this alternative list, or like rock and roll through the ages, always put down Mission of Burma as a band to check out. However, they never listed albums. Whereas like I got into Husker Du and like other Buzzcocks all through those books telling me, listen to this. So I'd go home and I'd download it. Never gave me anything to listen to, but they said Mission of Burma was always on those lists. Anything else, guys? All right, let's hop in to Katred's pick this week. Last time she'd picked Tragic Kingdom from No Doubt, a multi-million seller, but also it's got some feelings up inside, and I feel like this pick was a similar one as well. So go ahead, lay it on us.
Yeah, I had another prop. I had the actual CD that for forever since I had it. But with everything outside, I totally forgot it. Um, yeah, this just brings me back. I mean, close your eyes and just imagine, well, not little Katred, but younger Katred. Uh, first semester of college, black tank top, actually army green UFOs that could fit a family of 5, DC skater sneaks, probably had a visor on, and just blasting this album going to and from school. I would take this 6 train and just all the way to, all the way back. And now that I found it again, that's all I've been listening to. But it really brings me back to like just good times, first semester college, and all the feels. I love this album.
I've got a lot of notes on it, and I'm going to wait on them. I want everyone to get theirs out because there's so much I want to say that I just want to bounce off you guys. So I'm going to wait it out. Johnny, give us Sum 41, All Killer, No Filler, your thoughts.
Oh man, that was like the real beginnings of pop punk and punk rock. It was seeing the music video for Fat Lip on TRL.
Yeah.
And seeing that. So Fat Lip did a number of things for me. That was right around the time where I was really getting into skateboarding a whole bunch. So seeing skateboarding in the music video, like right away, Sum 41, they're amazing just because they have skateboarding in the music video. Like at the time, that was all it took. And and then you see like the bleach blonde hair, and of course, you know, I had hair that I could do that to then, and so everything about their vibe just captured me. And on top of that, every track on the thing, it's a front to back banger. Whether they're doing their weird Judas Priest impressions that warm my heart to Grinch sizes, like, and the picks you made on it, Katred, you picked like some wild deep cuts. You know, Nothing on My Back is that wild banger opener, and then Heart Attack is just a nice chill way to take you out of the album before Pain for Pleasure gives you that real left turn. I can go on about Sum 41 and their impact on me forever. So suffice to say, it was just a really welcomed trip back into yesteryear. Rhythms still hits just as hard as the first time I ever heard it. It will always be my favorite Sum 41 song. And get off my soapbox, but I can't say enough.
Makes me so happy.
I feel like a lot of us can really go in on this. I do want to piggyback before I get into my notes off what you're saying. Where like at the time, it's 2001. It's the very distinct of, you know, what pop punk was at the time. Where like I think for me, I liked Blink-182, but I think they were learning to play their instruments a bit too well. So it was getting a bit more like legitimate, and they were going less Minor Threat, more Fugazi, if that makes any sense. But when Derek Whibley goes and hits the chorus of Fat Lip in that music video, first time I saw it, you know, don't want to be a casualty of society, don't want to be a victim of your conformity. I'm like, I don't know what that's about, but I want to fucking be about it.
Yeah.
There was no better way to speak to me and my angsty 14-year-old that is still fighting its way through an angsty 33-year-old. Hot damn, that was speaking directly to me. So I got to give them the credit on that. Scotty, lay it on us, man. What did you think of this one?
So it's actually really funny that Johnny is wearing a Less Than Jake shirt, because when I listened to this album for the first time, I was at an age where I wasn't buying records for myself, and that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to make anybody sad. And I was immediately transported back to like sitting on the top bunk in my bedroom, copy of All Killer, No Filler, copy of Anthem by Less Than Jake, and just going back and forth between both of them, trying to decide which one I enjoyed more. And Sum 41 always narrowed it out by that much, and it was usually because of Pain for Pleasure. I love this album. This album and Does This Look Infected, I consider two perfect pop punk albums front to back, 100%.
It was really hard not to pick Does This Look Infected. Really.
It's so good.
So, now we get to the time for everybody to shit all over me.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so we do this thing called the compliment sandwich, and that's how I'm going to do this. We're going to go with a positive, come in with some negatives, end it on a positive. So we're going to start with the positive, where I think that you can't deny this is a very catchy record. All these guys knew how to write a catchy tune, really good with their hooks. At age 14 for me, when I first heard this, I really liked metal a lot. I think it was more metal than I was punk, because punk was harder to access as a fucking kid. But what I loved about these guys is that they had a metal influence. Obviously on like the Judas Priest love tracks, but then like in Too Deep, when you're hitting that chorus and he starts hitting the finger picking stuff, it's like, all right, these guys have definitely played some Iron Maiden licks, and I've definitely listened to Van Halen a bit. So it's like there's, it's a bit different than a lot of the other guys who you could tell their influence came from metal, and you can tell, whereas like the other pop punk guys like the Simple Plans and all them, they were like listening to like Newfound Glory and stuff. Fat Lip to me sounds like a band just having fun, because there is no other song on this record or the record prior that sounds anything like Fat Lip. Actually, I'm wrong. There is one on the record prior where he goes, the rap that he does in the beginning of the music video to the dude at the convenience store, that's from a track in the first record, but it's not the same way Fat Lip is put together, where it's pretty much rap, punk in terms of structure. With that said, I have never really liked this band as a whole. And I'll tell you why. I think this record is great. I think there's some songs off Does This Look Infected? My favorite song by them is Makes No Difference off their first record. That is, if any of you guys listening in want to check out what I would consider to be the perfect pop punk song, Makes No Difference. What a fucking hook. But to me, these guys, a lot of their riffs, especially after this record, and song structure came to me to be so derivative, to a point where their singles and the music videos they released, I would sit there and go, yeah, the verse is System of a Down, and the second part is this band's riff. Oh, and that's a Social Distortion riff. And I feel like that all came kind of after this. I don't know. That's my personal feeling on it. So yeah, I respect this record, but I think the fell off after this. However, we're ending the compliment sandwich with a happy piece of bread. The music video for Fat Lip, I'll go back to it. Different people, different looks, different sizes, shapes, colors. The representation, and I know this is me getting on my hippie soapbox here, but the representation of having all these different races and groups and everything together, just enjoying music and skateboarding. It was like, this is the fucking scene that I want to be a part of. Because, I mean, anyone will tell you, like, punk rock can kind of skew very, very, one-dimensional in some ways. But then, you got the Asian girl shaving her head. It's like, oh, that's crazy and weird. And, it's black, everything. So to me, all that representation was really dope to see as a 14-year-old mixed-race kid who really didn't know where his fucking place was in the world. So hopefully the compliment sandwich kind of makes me, not being a fan of the band in general, a little bit lighter to take. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings?
No, other than possibly the best lyric is, "You don't know us at all. We laugh when old people fall."
Yes, I still laugh when old people fall, but I'm getting old, so I'm going to have to laugh at myself. All right, let's move on to Johnny Torres's pick. This one,
Woo!
I've got a lot written down for. So, Johnny, lay it on us, my friend.
So it was only a matter of time until we got a Bayside record on this show. It was inevitable. The choice was hard, but we went with Interrobang, their most recent release. Hardest choice, but it edged out the rest because clearly when they were making Interrobang, they were listening to quite a lot of metal, and there was quite a lot of metal all throughout the entire record. They continue to raise their own bars pretty much most of the time when they put out a new record. I feel like they're doing something new and they're challenging themselves every single time. This, to me, was the best display of that, where This just like was front to back, like, okay, so we're getting some Bayside doing like comfortable like vocal progressions, but the instrumentals are going insane here. Prayers is unbelievable. Interrobang is a wild way to start the record off. Bayside isn't a band that I would consider amazing in terms of how they send off all of their records. With this one, with Walk It Off and White Flag as your last two, probably their best 1-2 punch to end a record that they've ever had. Numb is something completely different that I'd never heard them make before. There's the whole thing, for the most part, is them branching out and trying new things. And that to me is really encouraging, considering I've been listening to them for the better part of 15 years. So for them to continue doing new things even to this day, like, Bayside's going to be a band I'm going to love for the rest of my life. I got the fucking Devotion and Desire tattoos. I'm already a Bayside stan. But they just keep raising their own bars. I can't. It's another one. I could keep gushing.
I can say I genuinely hate the fact that you said they tried new things on this record, because this is the first time I've ever listened to a Bayside song. I knew the band. I knew my friend is like the hugest and I avoided them because she was a fan of them. Listen, it's how it works when you're like a shitty music gatekeeper that I've been for so long. Where like if somebody likes this is their favorite band, and then like you shit on every other band they listen to, their favorite's got to be shitty too. So
We appreciate your honesty.
well, listen, I'm trying to change, but hearing this is something new, because I fucking loved this record so goddamn much.
Yep.
So to hear that now, I can't listen to anything else because it is going to ruin this record for me. I can't. I'm sticking with this. This is the only record they've ever put out and will ever put out in existence. The band started in 2008 when the record came out and ended when the seal was closed on the fucking vinyl. That was it. But let me open it up to you guys before I continue to gush about this record. Scotty, lay it on us, man.
So back to Bamboozle 2009, I actually got thrown headlong into the mosh pit during Bayside set and almost died. So I feel a special love in my heart for this band. From the first time I heard Masterpiece, which is the first track on their first album, I was enamored by the way the lead singer uses the words that he uses, because you hear these words in punk songs every day, but he finds a way to make it interesting every time. This is, as Johnny said, this is the best new record that they've put out in quite a very long time, probably since around the time of Bamboozle 2009, in my opinion. And I listened to this the first time driving from Philadelphia to Williamstown and having a conversation with Devin Moore, and every time I heard something, I was like, shut up, I need to... Bayside's on. We don't talk when Bayside's on. So then I listened to it again driving home and was completely blown away by everything they were doing now. I'm gonna, as Johnny said, I'm gonna stick to loving Bayside. I love this band so much. So much.
Katred, lay it on us. What are your thoughts?
Man, listen. So, very similar to Jake. I've heard of Bayside, but this is the first time me hearing anything of theirs. And just, I want you to know, after the second song I favored, like right on Spotify, I was like, yeah, I know I'm gonna love everything that's coming after this. Way to Open Up, first song, just and they know how to do breakdowns. Every song, like their breakdowns are just chef's kiss. The lead singer, his voice, it's so strange because the music almost would probably normally not match up with that tone of voice. Like it's almost melodic. And even when he would try and growl a little bit, it almost seemed like it was just thrown in there. But after a while, once I started listening to him, I'm just like, no, yeah, that works. I really like that. I love the tone of his voice. I have a bunch of notes too. Oh, two songs actually made me emotional. Medication was like, woof. And then Walk It Off. Walk It Off had some of the best lyrics. I learned to walk by falling first. I was just like, that's definitely a tattoo on somebody's side, right? And, uh, we are as we are taught. We are, yeah. I love that. Oh, the part that got me was now I know it wasn't me, because it's just like it's that moment where you've been blaming yourself probably for how long, that you thought something was your fault and whatnot, and now you're coming to this realization and you're like, oh, it's not actually. It's so just, oh man, all of it. White Flag, everything. Get out of here. This is this is, I want to say, like, this album is the reason why Logan is doing this, is so that way we get exposed to new music like this. And I'm just like, I have a new band to listen to now. Although now I'm scared because now I don't
right.
listen to anything before this, because this really feels like, how do you go from that? But thank you for recommending this. I love it. Love it, love it.
It's interesting you talk about the vocals. I had put so the I listened to this. I'll say this first. I listened to this record once the whole way through, like I always do, and then I adored it. So I was like, all right, I'm going back. I listened to it a second time through, and then I've been listening to select tracks nonstop all week. And the first listen through, I really didn't like the vocal production, and I was listening to like, all right, like they're doubling up the vocals. I see what they're trying to do. It's not for me. By the time we hit White Flag, I go, I get it, and I love it. White Flag, I wrote in big bold letters, is the fucking jam. By and far my favorite song on this record. I've been singing it to myself daily since I had that first listen. Just on repeat. That and Interrobang both made my gym playlist, which really in general doesn't happen from here, not because the songs aren't good, but because I need a certain kind of energy that's going to like keep me moving. And these songs, while they're not the heaviest, like I've got Pig Destroyer on that gym playlist, but these songs bring that energy out of me. And if I could sing along and I could dance, I'm set. No breaks on this record at all. Straightforward, in your face. It rocks. Man, like I am so happy that this was picked, because goddamn, I love this record so goddamn much. Also want to mention again, because you know I'm a theater kid in disguise. I got rock opera vibes from this one as well, which I've gotten from a few of Johnny's picks. So I think there's a thing going on here, which I love personally. Yeah, like I said, this album is 100% going into rotation, and I'm probably going to be sending this to a few of the people that I always share music with. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings?
Well, now that I've got you and Katred both scared about digging into the past catalog a little bit, me and Scotty will curate something from past hits for you guys.
Tremendous. I'm for it. All right, let's end it like we do every week with my pick. I did this one specifically for Miss Katred. Last time she was on, like I mentioned, she picked Tragic Kingdom, which was the 1995 album from No Doubt. It was, oh man, it spawned so many singles, huge hits. Really, I think defined what was alternative music and pop music at the time. But of course, me, the music hipster, gatekeeper, who has to go, nothing is good ever. I'm going way back. I'm going to No Doubt's first recorded album. It was self-titled. I found this one obviously through just being like a collector of music, and I knew the song "Trapped in a Box" because that was like a minor hit when it came out, and every once in a while it would be played on like VH1 or something. But I was able to actually go into this record and check it out. Now, I had mentioned the last time that Katred was on that Tragic Kingdom was the last record that was mostly written by Eric Stefani, Gwen's brother, who played keyboards. He left the band during the recording of Tragic Kingdom to go make music for The Simpsons, which is an interesting note in itself. But he is far and away you could tell this is an Eric Stefani record if you know the sound you're looking for, because this sounds to me like the band Madness, which was Eric's favorite band, with female vocals. Once you guys come in with this, legitimately for me a top 5 record all time. But I'm going to throw it to Katred first, because I know that you've got some No Doubt fandom.
Yeah, it's like like, I know this album is great. For me though, like Tragic Kingdom will always be my baby. But it's funny, as soon as I started hearing this, because this came out in 91, I think.
91.
Yeah, this came out in 91, and it's so funny how even just within those 4 years, you can hear how Gwen's voice is still, well, not only younger sounding, but just there's just a different tone to it, which I still love. And you can tell it's like she's finding that groove. I feel like all of this, there are so many, and I tried really, really hard not to compare it to Tragic Kingdom, but I kept finding like little things of like, oh, I hear this in it, and maybe this is where seeds were planted, and that's how we got this song later on. What was the biggest one for that? Let's Get Back. I immediately heard You Can Do It, which is on Tragic Kingdom, and that's when I heard Gwen's voice. I was like, yeah, the way it opens up, just those bass slaps, man. Just, ooh.
Yo, I gotta say, I mean, Tragic Kingdom, I mean, this band is a band of very good musicians, but obviously Tragic Kingdom is a pop record. They're focusing a lot more on the production and the hooks. Motherfucking Tony Kanal, that motherfucker is a just god tier bass. Like, the way he plays the bass on this record, he is all over the motherfucking fretboard. Unbelievable. Continue. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. And I'm glad you brought that up, because Tragic Kingdom is a pop record, right? And this is very ska heavy, which is, what you want it to be. The Breakdown and Move On, love. Sad for Me was such a nice, just like a nice palate cleanser, because it was just softer. I almost feel like I wish it had a harpsichord, or maybe it sounded sort of harpsichordy. Trapped in a Box, that as soon as I heard, I was like, yeah, of course. Like, that was my first introduction to them as well. Sometimes, God, see, it's so good. Sometimes Sinking are two of my faves. A Little Something Refreshing, we would try and memorize how, because that thing is just back to back. It's so fast when they start doing the verses for A Little Something Refreshing. And we can never get it because, we were tiny. And then Brand New Day is just it's a feel good song. And it's such a great way to end the album. But I feel like they carried that throughout their albums, was always ending on like this feel good type of song. This was a great pick, and I love this.
I was gonna say Brand New Day, the opening track, which is an instrumental, BND. I guess it would be like an overture if this was brought, again, theater kid coming out to you. But you're starting that way, and then the end. Brand New Day ends the same way the album opened, because Eric Stefani does not get the credit for being a musical mastermind that he is. Scotty, what are your thoughts, man?
I actually discovered this record after listening to No Doubt's Greatest Hits for like 2 years straight, because that's where I heard Trapped in the Box for the first time after working at FYE. And the first time I heard it, I kind of put it in the same pocket that I would put like Robin the Hood by Sublime. Like, it's a No Doubt record, but it may not necessarily be a No Doubt record for me. Revisiting it here, this is a really, really fucking good ska record. Yeah. Like, take everything else away from it, take out the musicians. If this was just a band of people making ska music, this is a really, really good ska record. Madness's influence is there. You can hear it across a lot of the songs. And there are several of the songs that sound very much like a carnival on fire, but that's like my favorite type of sound. I love this record. This is really good. This really, really renewed my appreciation for this first record.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, the which greatest hits are you talking about? Is that the double disc one or the other one that they put out?
It was on the single disc version with the silver cover, because the double disc one was the compilation with the B-sides.
Right, so that's the one where I first heard their cover of what do you call it? Sailing On by Bad Brains, which monster Bad Brains fan, listening to their sca'd up version, oh, so good. And then you see them do it live, and it's a completely different version from the recorded version. this band, the musicianship, it gets so overshadowed by the fact that like Gwen is like rock star stamped and tattooed on her forehead. Man, these guys could play. I still can't get over the bass on this record. And like,
Yeah.
Johnny, lay it on us, man.
Yeah. First time really with this record. Didn't really know what to expect. First impression when Gwen, well, that first instrumental overture is not something I was expecting at all from No Doubt, but quickly became like one of my favorite things. Like I have an instrumental playlist that went right on it.
Nice.
This just seemed like because you guys were saying before that Tragic Kingdom was like designed to be a pop record. There was a lot of muscle flexing here in different directions. The random tone switch to metal in the middle of Move On was unbelievable. That was something I never thought that in my life I would ever hear in a No Doubt song. So by then, like afterwards, I'm like, okay, so they didn't have to focus on making a pop record. They could pull from any wild influences they wanted to. I mean, and also like Gwen's voice, like that was probably my first thought when her vocals hit was, my God, she sounds so young. Jesus.
Yeah. Like a baby Gwen.
Right.
And it's, the crazy part is that this record, I think, is, I want to say between 5 and 4 years after she first joined the band. So they've been doing these songs for a long time. That's just, to me, that's crazy. But yeah, I think she was like a child when she joined the band.
Yeah, and like she would occasionally move into like this loungy sound. Like I was picturing a cigar smoke filled room on a Saturday night. Like, no, there was totally that vibe. Yeah, I've never seen No Doubt with that much like versatility, but I've never gone back this far in their catalog, so it was definitely a wild revelation, and the legend of Eric Stefani continues to grow.
Yeah, man, I will always put that guy over because like this record, because the Beacon Street Collection was like a collection of stuff, and then Tragic Kingdom is excellent, but you could 100% tell, and the reason he left the band was because the label was like, we want a certain kind of sound on this record, and he, being the high and mighty son of a bitch that he is, he's not going to take the record company telling him what to make. But this is 100% him on it. I just, man, like I can't get over the musicianship, like the keyboard solo in Let's Get Back, and then that beginning, bam, it's just all over the place. The bass, I can gush and gush and gush on this, but the musicianship, if you like listening to bass go off, if you like listening to like interesting guitar parts, right? I mean, there's certainly some Les Claypool influence, and then again, like, motherfucker with the keyboards just all over the place, having so much fun. And horns. No Doubt with horns, for me, beats No Doubt without horns any day. Just my opinion. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings before we hit the question of the week?
Nope.
All right. So the question of the week this week, inspired, of course, by, if you guys can see it, I think it's kind of dark in my room, but it is my Ozfest 2001 tour shirt that I've had for 19 years, everybody. We're going to put it out there. What is your favorite bad nu metal band? So, or I guess, was it least favorite nu metal band? I don't know, but they can kind of work in because nu metal is one of those genres that could be so bad that you just got to love it. I'm going to put this on Scotty first. Scotty, bring us to the world of bad nu metal.
So if we're going favorite bad, it's got to be Saliva. Like, that was a band that I was surrounded by for my entire adolescence between video games and the WWE. I had no choice many days but to listen to Saliva because it was just on. If we're going worst nu metal band, it's got to be Neurotica. Kelly Schaefer from Atheist, a technical death metal band, starting a speed metal band that got the attention of Brian Johnson from AC/DC, which got them signed to WWF Records, which then made them become a nu metal band, and it's the worst album you'll ever hear in your life. Worst. I still get angry. I'm a huge Atheist fan, and I still get angry that record...
I was gonna say, so just quick side note. I worked for Roadrunner Records for a short amount of time, and I know bad new metal when I hear it, and you've certainly laid some on us. Johnny, give us your new metal, your favorite bad or least favorite good new metal band.
Oh man. Well, I could get myself crucified right here and just go after the almighty Limp Bizkit, but I'm not doing that today. I'm not going to do that today.
Nobody would fault you.
Yeah, well, they're in a special place in my heart, and if I put them out there, I feel like they're just going to get hammered, and we can't have that. So they're in their own Hall of Fame in my new metal world, but for the exact same reason that Scotty laid out for Saliva, and we're also going to add in the fact that during independent shows during the mid-2000s, they were damn inescapable. We're going with the almighty Papa Roach, baby.
What about Papa Roach?
You know that came out to Last Resort. You don't
well,
have
the
enough
Last Resort,
pal.
Between Angels and Airwaves was the other one that everybody came out to. Literally everybody. What is your besides this, is it the wrestling stuff that is making them the worst on your list, or is there like another specific reason?
For the most part, it's like always been that, and just like every time I've seen them make music videos and stuff, it was always just like, why are you guys even here? Like, why? Like, they've always just been like, aside from the music, which I was kind of like hit or miss on, there was just always a whole bunch of thing about their general vibe that I'm just like, why are you the way you are, Papa Roach?
Like I said, this shirt was caked in mud from the fucking the lawn seats for everybody at that show during Papa Roach. Katred, lay it on us. Who do you think is your least favorite or favorite but least new metal band?
I want to first say I don't think they're bad. I don't think any of these are bad.
Oh boy.
I feel bad saying like somebody's a bad band. But I think it's funny that we're all pulling from like wrestling, obviously, right?
That'll do it.
So I think I'm gonna have to go with POD.
Ooh. You know what? That's an excellent choice. What about POD does it for you?
I don't know. I mean, you know what? Maybe it was wrestling. Maybe it was just because it was just on for everything and it was just overplayed. And I know it's not their fault. Any song or any album that's overplayed, you're just like, but I really feel it was overkill for a while. And there was just certain sound to them that I was like, oh God. You get a nervous twitch all of a sudden.
I could certainly jump on that.
I think I can fly.
It was echo. There you go. It was the echoing. Every song had this really vast reverb echo.
I want to give those guys credit though. The first record with Southtown, like Southtown is a fun song.
Southtown's a banger.
Right, and there's a couple of tracks on that record that are really good. Yeah. But yes, I will 1000% agree with you. Is that all you got? I'll take your best shot. Oh my God.
I'm gonna
all right.
Right after this.
So, I'm a bit disappointed in my pick because we're going with like the pinnacle. Because I would consider myself, I don't want to say a new metal connoisseur because like that's just an awful thing to say about oneself. But I know a lot of bad new metal. When if we're talking about bands like lesser known bands like Pete, the band's name was Pete. Yeah. They sucked. Edema, which was like Korn. No. Edema was Korn when Korn wasn't putting out records. That's the only reason anybody listened to them. Their record was shit. Primer 55, Spine Shank. These are all terrible bands.
Spine Shank!
Listen, I do have some Spine Shank on my gym playlist. There's one or two good songs. To like bands like, I mean, Trapped is shit on forever now, and Trust Company. Like, who remembers those guys?
I have problems, brother.
Oof, I'm sorry to hear that. Quick story about Trust Company. They opened for Korn. When I rolled up Trust Company's like banner, I was in the crowd. Yeah, yeah, and everybody liked that. But number one on my list, because again, if we're going to be the worst of nu metal, it is 100% Crazy Town. I don't believe that there is any band that is going to top Crazy Town. And I say this as somebody who, yes, I recognize that it is Butterfly is an infectious tune. People can like that. You don't even have to be a fan of nu metal or rock and roll to enjoy that song. But I just literally, randomly, if you have ever listened to Butterfly, pick one other track from The Gift of Game. One other one, just one. Give it 30 seconds. If you are not ready to punch whatever the listening device is in its mouth, then you stick something in your ears. You're something wrong with you. Worst band ever in existence.
I got free tickets to see them at the Webster Theater one time. I got free tickets because they couldn't get anybody to go.
Yeah,
I'm saying there was 15 people in the audience. I went just because I'm an agent of chaos and I wanted to see what this would look like. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Don't ever do it.
I think next week we continue the nu metal trend by pointing out our least favorite nu metal singer or band member names, and Shifty Shell Shock will have to take the cake on that one. So let's go through it as we usually do. Where can we find everybody on social media? Scotty?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SCCeriti.
Johnny?
The Concept JT on Twitter and Instagram.
Katred?
You can find me on Instagram at Clockwork Angel Katred.
And you can find me on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at King of Chaos NYC. And if you're checking this out, it goes up on the Year One Wrestling Podcast YouTube account. You should be subscribed. You should be checking out all the videos. We've got multiple new videos coming out every single week, weekly series, all that fun stuff. And listen to the podcast. It's awesome. Year One Pod on all social media and Year One Podcast wherever you check out your podcast. Guys, for myself, for our guest, Katred, we're going to have you back a third time because it's always a fucking blast having you here.
Yeah.
But for all of us, guys, we'll see you next week.